Hello my friends, welcome to another exciting episode with me in our Photoshop design series. In this video, I'll be showing you how I created this Ferrari poster inside of Photoshop. While at it, the sci-fi fantasy pack, the Easter templates, and the Smart Designer Premium asset is still very much available. To access all of this, click the link in the description of this video. If you've not subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notification so that you miss any videos I'll be dropping anytime from now. Without having to say much, let's get started. So the first thing I need to do here is click on File, and I'm going to use a 4x5 inches. I'm just going to put the name here, 4x5 inches. So this is going to be social media poster, like this, and resolution stays at 300, and the color mode stays at RGB. Right, so 4x5, 300, and click on Create like this. Okay, so having done that, the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go over to my resource file. Of course, you can see that this is from the Smart Designer Premium Assets, right? So I'm just going to navigate under Premium Images. I'm going to take my background from inside, right? So you can see that you have a whole lot of images inside. One of the reasons why you should get this asset, right? So to save you the stress of having to go to the internet looking for images to download. So I'm going to the PNG session. I'm going to look for the image that I used. Is inside here also. So this is it in desert sand. So if you have yours, just search for desert sand and you get this image, right? So I'm going to position it here. I'm going to mask it and I'm going to use my brush. My flow is set to 14 and I'm just going to mask out these areas so it can blend with the image that I have underneath, right? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change, I'm going to add an adjustment layer, and I'm going to go to color lookup, and I'm just going to set this to late sunsets. This is the filter, right? So I'm going to use this. You can see how much difference this has made with this poster itself. So moving on, I'm going to go over to my resource file for this video. Well, I'll get the other images, right? So what I need to just do is just drag this inside here, and this is the image of the Ferrari, and click. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a new layer like this. I'm going to hide this Ferrari so I can see what I'm doing clearly. Select your rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a series of rectangles. Just going to have them 3. I'm just going to duplicate this until I have 3 images. Duplicate again, Ctrl J, and I have 3 images. Now select all of them and press Ctrl T. Hold down Shift and move from this side so that you can adjust from one part like this, right? So you can also change the color. Select any color, but it doesn't matter, right? So I just decided to just change it. So make visible the layer for the image and drag it up like this, right? So you can then select these 3 rectangles and you can move them, adjust it by the size like this, holding down Shift, and you can then move them upwards. Move them upward. I'm using my arrow key, so whichever way works for you, you can use to do this. And selecting this first one, I'm going over to my resource file and I'm going to select this first image. This is the first one, this one here. I'm just going to drag and drop inside like this. And when you bring it in, just resize a little bit. You don't need to resize too much because you're still going to clip it to this rectangle here, which is the first one. So you have to be careful while doing this so you do it the right way. So when you've sized this to the right size you want to use, click enter, right click on the image and create clipping mask so you can see it as masked to the first rectangle I have there. So select the second one and do the same thing too for the other 2 rectangles. So you can move this around while it's inside the mask, and of course adjust it well. So I'm just going to leave mine like this. And the last one, which is this one, I'm just going to drag and drop like this. And make sure, like I said, you are clipping it on the right rectangle, right? So to avoid mistakes and having to do things from the scratch or from the beginning again. All right. So click on create clipping mask, and that's all. Right. So we have our images inside of the rectangles that we want it to be. Right. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, let me see. I'm going to conceal the base of this image like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer here. Make sure white is selected. Go over to your brush, increase the flow to 100, and I'm just going to create a mist-like effect here with my brush. Right? So this is the first one. I'm going over to create another one just underneath. I'm going to change the color to this yellow here. Click OK, and I think I'm going to create a new layer here, so it should be under the white. So I'm just going to paint with my brush here like this and change the blend mode to screen. So I'm going to reveal this car here. You can see how nicely blended this is. So I can reduce the whites to like 77, make sure it's not too much, and create another little layer here. I'm going to revert the foreground color by clicking the arrow. This is the color I'm using. So you can see the color code. You can copy it. I'm using a darker shade. So I'm just going to zoom out with my brush selected, my flow set to 100. I'm just going to paint here like this, and to create this effect. Okay. So create another one, but this time I'm going to use a darker color. So I'm just going to move down here like this. And with my brush selected, I'm just going to go to the base, only the base parts, to make it look like a gradient, like, to make it look as if there's a gradient there. So on top here, create a new layer. This time I'm going to reduce the flow to like 16. I'm going to use my brush and paint in this color here. I'm going to change the blend mode to screen. Right, so yeah, I'm leaving the blend mode at screen like this. This is before and this is after, right? So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going over to, okay, let me select the image of the Ferrari, Ctrl T. I think I have to make this smaller. So it's aligned with the laws of perspective in designing. So I'm just going to leave it like this so everything blends well. Right? So I'm going to create a new layer here. And I'm going to bring in my text. Taking time out to type this out so that we don't spend the entire day on this particular video. So I'm just going to reduce the size and I'm bringing it down. So it's Ferrari F12 TDF. So click enter and this is what you have. Right, so for the last part of this design, we're going to add a little bit of adjustment to it. Make a snapshot, Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E to make the snapshot. Ctrl-Alt+E, Ctrl-Alt-Shift+E to make a snapshot. Convert it to a smart object, and go to camera raw filter, which is where I'm headed to. When it opens up, you can copy my settings for this. I'm just going to bump up the texture like this. I'm also going to increase the clarity, not too much, +4 is fine. Increase vibrant, and also increase the saturation. Right? So I'm going to use +5, and when I'm done, I'm going to click OK like this. Right? So, and lastly, create an adjustment layer here. And for the midtones, I'm going to increase it and add some yellows to it. For the highlights, I'm going to add some reds to it. And for the shadows, of course, to make it realistic, make sure you add blues to it. right? So +8 is fine and it's a good place to be. All right, this brings me to the end of this video poster section. If you've enjoyed this video, kindly hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video just up ahead.